The rain had been falling all morning, the kind that doesn't roar but whispers, a steady rhythm that seeps into your bones and makes the world feel slower, heavier. In a small coffee shop tucked away on a quiet street, a woman sat alone near the fogged-up window, staring into her untouched cup. Her name was Emma. Her reflection in the glass looked like a ghost of the person she once was, eyes dull, lips pressed together, a face that had forgotten how to lift into a smile. She wasn't just tired. She was done. Done pretending she was okay. Done fighting to stay afloat. Done carrying a heart that had been bruised too many times. If you believe that kindness still has the power to heal, that second chances can breathe life back into broken hearts, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Because sometimes, all it takes is one act of grace to change someone's entire world. For Emma, that grace arrived in the form of a man she didn't expect. He walked into the cafe like sunlight breaking through a storm, wet hair, worn-out jacket, and the kind of smile that wasn't loud or forced but real. His name was Daniel, a freelance photographer chasing stories of everyday people. He noticed her before she noticed him. The way she sat with her shoulders drawn in, as if trying to make herself smaller. The way her fingers trembled slightly as she stirred her coffee that had long gone cold. He didn't know why, but something in her stillness tugged at him. He saw a picture, an untold story, and his instinct told him it was one worth capturing, not with his camera, but with his heart. Daniel ordered his drink and sat 2 tables away. He wasn't sure if he should say anything. The world was full of people who didn't want to be bothered, and yet, sometimes, it's the quiet ones who are silently pleading to be noticed. When the waitress accidentally dropped a napkin near Emma's table, Daniel reached down first to pick it up, handing it to her with a small, unassuming smile. That was the first time their eyes met. Hers, drained and cautious. His, warm, steady, patient. She gave a polite nod, but her gaze quickly fell back to the window. He could have left it at that. But something about the way she sat there, like a fading song, wouldn't let him walk away. Emma used to be a teacher, loved by her students and admired by her peers. She believed in small joys, morning walks, laughter with friends, helping a child spell their first word. But everything changed 2 years ago when she lost her husband in a car accident. In a single night, her world fell silent. The laughter she used to wake up to disappeared, and the home they built together became a museum of memories too painful to revisit. She stopped teaching, stopped painting, stopped talking to friends who didn't know what to say anymore. Every attempt to move on felt like a betrayal to the man she lost. So she stopped trying altogether. Now, every morning felt like climbing a mountain with no summit in sight. She told herself she was surviving, but surviving wasn't living. She hadn't smiled in months, and she didn't remember what laughter even felt like anymore. Daniel had no idea what she had been through. He just saw someone hurting. He'd been there once himself. Years ago, he lost his mother to cancer. He knew the silence grief could bring, the way it swallowed every bit of light and made you believe you didn't deserve happiness anymore. But he also knew healing begins the moment someone reminds you that you're still seen, still worthy, still alive. So the next morning, Daniel returned to the same cafe, camera hanging loosely around his neck. To his surprise, Emma was there again, same corner, same window, same untouched coffee. He smiled and sat across from her, a little closer this time. He didn't say a word at first, just opened his notebook and started sketching something on a napkin. Emma tried not to look, but curiosity betrayed her. He slid the napkin toward her when he noticed her glance. On it was a quick doodle of a cloud raining coffee drops into a cup with the words, "Even storms fill something." She blinked, unsure how to react. It wasn't funny in the usual sense, but something about it, a stranger trying, made her lips twitch, almost like a forgotten reflex. "That's something," she said softly, and for the first time in months, her voice didn't sound empty. Daniel grinned. "I'll take that as progress." That moment wasn't spectacular or cinematic. It was quiet, human. But it mattered. Over the next few weeks, their paths kept crossing. Maybe by chance. Maybe not. Daniel made it a point to stop by the cafe every morning at the same time. Sometimes, he brought her a new napkin drawing, silly ones, hopeful ones, sometimes just strange sketches that made no sense but somehow made her chuckle. He didn't ask for her story. He didn't try to fix her. He just showed up, every day, with a small gesture of light. Slowly, Emma began to talk again. About small things at first, the weather, the music playing, the smell of cinnamon in the air. Then one morning, she told him about her husband. How he used to make her laugh at the most inappropriate moments. How his death felt like the world had stopped spinning. Daniel listened without interrupting. He didn't say the usual words, "No, time heals all wounds," or "You'll be okay." He just said, "I can't imagine that kind of pain, but I'm glad you're still here." Something about that broke her. In a good way. For once, someone didn't rush her healing. Someone simply let her be. As the days turned to weeks, Daniel began taking photos of the little world around them, raindrops on the window, the flicker of the cafe lights, the way Emma's fingers curled around her cup. He called the series, Finding Color in Gray. When he showed her the photos, she was startled. In every frame, there was something beautiful hidden in ordinary sadness. She didn't see a broken woman, she saw someone still capable of feeling, of existing, of beginning again. "You see beauty in everything," she said one day, looking through his lens. "I try to," he replied softly. "Especially in the places people stop looking." Emma didn't realize how much that line would stay with her. It became her quiet mantra. She started painting again, at first just soft colors, hesitant strokes. Daniel encouraged her, sometimes watching from across the room, other times silently sitting beside her as she worked. The walls of her apartment, once blank and lifeless, began to bloom again with color. One evening, months after their first meeting, Daniel invited Emma to a small photography exhibition downtown. He told her he was showcasing a new project but didn't reveal what it was. Nervously, she agreed. When she arrived, her heart almost stopped. Hanging on one of the walls were photos of her, the quiet mornings at the cafe, her hands sketching, her eyes looking out the window. Each image was paired with a short caption Daniel had written. She said she was too tired to smile. But she came anyway. Even broken things can reflect light. Healing doesn't always look like joy. Sometimes it's just breathing again. Tears filled her eyes as she walked through the gallery. She hadn't realized until that moment how far she'd come. She wasn't healed completely, but she was moving. Daniel had held up a mirror to her pain and somehow made it beautiful, not by changing it, but by showing her that it mattered. That she mattered. When she turned around, Daniel was standing a few steps behind, camera in hand, smiling that same quiet smile. She walked up to him and said through her tears, "You made me laugh again." He shook his head gently. "No," he said, "you just remembered how." After that night, Emma began to teach again, just part-time, but enough to feel alive in a classroom full of laughter and questions. Daniel continued his work, traveling and taking photos of ordinary people doing extraordinary things simply by surviving. They stayed close, bonded by something deeper than romance, an understanding that kindness can rebuild what grief once destroyed. There were still bad days, of course. Days when Emma woke up and felt the weight of the world pressing on her chest. But she no longer faced it alone. She had found a friend who didn't just remind her to smile, but gave her reasons to. One morning, as they sat by that same cafe window, sunlight streaming in for the first time after a long week of rain, Emma laughed, freely, openly, without holding back. It wasn't loud or perfect, but it was real. Daniel looked at her, that same spark of quiet pride in his eyes, and said, "That's the sound I wanted to hear." She smiled, her eyes glistening. "Guess I finally remembered the tune." And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel tired anymore. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep spreading stories of hope, healing, and second chances to those who need it most. Sparkle's special request: comment below what part of Emma and Daniel's story stayed with you the most. Sometimes, your words might be the light someone else needs to read today. Because in a world where too many people are too tired to smile, all it takes is one gentle soul to remind them that laughter and life still belong to them.